All right, Simply Bitcoin. We break down the news from Twitter, the daily fail, meme review, software releases, and the websites by plebes or plebs. Drop us a like, subscribe. We're going to the numbers. Let's do it. At the time of this recording, the block height is 684,430. The Bitcoin price, 38,065. Chain rewrite days, 647. Total public Lightning capacity, 1,332.03 BTC. Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 5.84%. And sats per dollar, 2,627. You're getting more sats per dollar. That's our upside.
I'm trying to see if I hide away from the camera, the price will go up. It doesn't look like it's working.
No, we don't seem to affect it in this way. I've tried. I've tried to do all kinds of magical thinking, like growing sideburns or a beard, stuff like that. It just doesn't work. Doesn't matter. Bitcoin doesn't care.
Man, brutal.
Yeah.
Wartime Nico. We got this, Phil. We got this. We don't care.
I stacked again this morning because I had no choice.
It's so funny because Bitcoiners are like the only people where like the price goes down 50% and we're like, buy more, hold the line.
This is where we hold them. This is where we fight. This is where they die. And these shield boys.
Like crazy people, because if you did that with any, if you did that in my hair is crazy right now, I'm gonna fix it in a sec. But if you did that with traditional finance or something, shut up. If you did that with traditional finance and an asset goes 50%, and you're like buy, they would just look at you like a crazy person. But yeah, man, cheaper sats.
When there's no, let's be honest, when there's no institution that can dump on you, right, where they can't just go and create a whole bunch more. It kind of makes sense to stack a finite resource when the price dips.
Yeah, man. You gotta keep stacking. You gotta keep stacking. But anyways, Phil, it's time for
the daily fail. Fellow Bitcoiner, at I think it's Indus 3. Anyone surprised? I wouldn't think so. They've done it before. They'll do it again and again, unless you stop giving them the power to do so. Dump Ethereum and all its shitty derivatives. What's he talking about? Ethereum dumped on us again from Molly. What is she talking about? Shout out to Bitcoin Platts. Ethereum Foundation dumping on the noobs. Sound financial planning, of course. And what are we talking about? 35K of ETH dumped on Kraken by the ETH Foundation. What we are talking about is the pre-mine, okay? As much as people don't want to accept it, 70% of Ethereum is a pre-mine, okay? So there is a lot more dumping that is going to be going on. Yeah, anyways, that's pretty much it. The same way we told you so about Bitcoin is the same thing with the shitcoins. I know that in some cases, when you have something pumping really hard for a short period of time, you think that you're a genius. I know the feeling. I thought I was a genius too. You're not. I'm not. So.
Man, it's crazy because these things, but until you're human at the end of the day, right? So until you see it, you're like, wow, it's just like, oh, okay, we knew that was gonna happen. So man, it's just that's crazy, dude. It's crazy that it's and how could that be better money than Bitcoin? What happens if for example, this Ethereum Foundation just gets arrested, the people in the Ethereum Foundation get arrested, or the AWS servers get shut down, Parler was shut down, or Vitalik gets arrested. What do you think's going to happen to Ethereum? It's going to stop working, dude.
Gone.
So it's
yep. Centralized garbage, dude. It's centralized garbage and they pretend. And they're going to get people totally wrecked. I mean, look at what they did. What did they do? Why weren't they selling this before? It's no, they're going to wait till the price is really nice and high, which totally makes sense, right? Because they need to fund their operations. Because at the end of the day, it's like a company.
Just like XRP. Just
like XRP. And it's so funny that the bag holders, the bag holders make up the excuse. They're like, well, how do you expect them to fund operations? That's the fucking point. That's why it's not Bitcoin. That's why it's never going to be Bitcoin. That's why it's never going to be money.
Yep. And it,
like, don't you get it? Like, just the fact that they have to do that.
It's crazy too, Phil, because every single, and like, just to re-emphasize this, right? Like, it's crazy because when Bitcoin was created, right, it had a virgin birth. Satoshi didn't know it was going to have value. Actually, in fact, it didn't have value for like the first year or so, or the first 6 months, a year. It didn't have value. It was just like a trinket. It was just like, okay, look, decentralized money. Let's see if it works. And then it was given value over time, meaning the founders didn't have a financial incentive from the beginning, right? Satoshi had no idea that this was going to have monetary value in the future. Unlike Ethereum, when Ethereum was founded, Bitcoin was already a proven concept, right? So this pre-mine dump is just another example of like, is their goal really to build the best money in the world, or is it just to get rich, right? No one knows. But
they're just building useless shit.
Building useless centralized garbage. That's right. We're going to piss off a lot of people. Love it. Thanks for the engagement. But anyways, Phil, it's time for
the Daily Meme Review.
All right, everybody. The meme for today is brought to us by the legendary Max Kaiser. He says, amazing. Elon Musk literally gets bitch slapped. I can't say all of this stuff. I'm sorry, guys. Gets slapped hard live on Twitter, then runs away like a whiny. Yeah. And of course, it's Michael Saylor. I guess this is like a Jesus painting holding Bitcoin. Elon Musk, the devil. And of course, he's talking about, Elon saying Michael Giga Chad Saylor. And then, he kind of just gives his explanation. But what's really funny, though, is that Elon deleted this tweet because of how hard he got wrecked, right? So Saylor wrecked him so hard, Elon deleted the tweet. So, man, and Max just perfectly summarized this with this meme. Excellent meme. And because it was an excellent meme, I'm going to give it a book that was very, very fundamental in my journey of entrepreneurship. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It literally changed my life. Amazing book. I don't read hard copies. I listen to audiobooks, but I do buy the hard copies just to put them on my shelf to say that I did read it, because technically I did read it. I didn't read it. I listened to it. But isn't that kind of the same thing? I don't know. Phil?
I think it's kind of the same thing. Good score. I can't stand Robert Kiyosaki. But
he likes Bitcoin.
Listen, I know. He also likes silver. He also likes silver because it's cheap and everyone can afford it. That is a selling point of silver. The same way that toilet paper, sand is in abundance on every beach and completely free. Everyone should own some, right? Why shouldn't you? Everyone should own some. Have some sand. Anyways, don't get me wrong. I know a lot of people rave about that book. And it like changed a lot of people's lives. So if it did what it had to do for you, then that's amazing. But I can't stand them. Anyways, that being said, I'm going with the frog tape.
Oh.
You barely even see the frog tape.
So let me ask you something. What's the difference between frog tape and duct tape?
I think it's just a brand thing, but it's also at the same time, the frog tape has this, like, it's good for painting. Like when you use it for paint and you peel it off, it gives you really straight, good line. Like, it's not just like a commercial. Like, that stuff is true. It really works well. It works better than normal tape.
So do you think that there's a tiger tape?
I think there is a tiger tape. I think there's even Gorilla Glue tape.
Gorilla. Wow.
They're all just brand name tapes.
All these different animals. Okay. So a book that I like that Phil dislikes, and animal tape. Awesome. Awesome scores for an awesome meme by the legendary Max Kaiser. Anyways, Phil, it's time for
the Daily News, sponsored by
Crypto Cloaks.
All right, everybody. Taproot update. We've been covering this. We're going to cover it until we find out what happens. But guys, it looks like we've been saying the last 2 or 3 days, it looks like it's going through. Current total 85.6. They added a new metric, potential 95.53. But let's take a look at the green dots. Very, very green. Very, very, very green. So Phil, I anticipate this going through, man, and that's awesome.
This is where they got because I saw a tweet yesterday where it said like Taproot 95% or something. I'm like, what? I'm like, in one day, but now I get where they got the metric. It's that potential metric.
Yep, it's that potential, but it looks like it's going to go through, man, and that's very exciting. Very exciting news.
It's going to be huge.
Very
cool
huge
stuff.
But anyways, Phil, check this out. Very weird. I think Saylor sums it up perfectly in his tweet. But check this out. This is auspicious for Bitcoin, coming from David Rubenstein. David Rubenstein is a swamp creature, just so you guys know. He is a chairman of the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, former chairman of the Smithsonian Institution, chairman of the Council of Foreign Relations, and president of the Economic Club of Washington, D.C. Let me translate all of that. He's a swamp creature. Okay, let's see what he has to say about Bitcoin.
It's like King
David, I know you're a long-term investor and not somebody who looks at many of these day-to-day moves. But yesterday was pretty weird, especially when you looked at cryptocurrency, decline of
Bitcoin and
46% for Ethereum. I mean, you feel moves like that and you wonder how much froth has built up in the markets. You wonder how much momentum has been driving things. And what would you take away? Even as a long-term investor, you have to pay attention to some of these moves.
Well, remember, crypto has come from nowhere to be a force in the market. It's, in effect, a gold substitute for some. And I have invested in not cryptocurrencies myself, but in things that I would say facilitate the trading of it in various companies that are helping to trade or make it easier for people to be involved with cryptocurrency. And I did that in part because I think it's here to stay. Cryptocurrency is not going away, just like gold is not going away. So yes, it had its ups and downs, and yesterday was not a good day for it. But that's true of anything that is relatively new. And I don't think you're going to see anything like crypto going away and disappearing. It's here, and it's here because people in the market want something other than just the traditional currencies that we've had. And whether that's right or wrong, it's clearly something that the market wants. So yes, if you go into cryptocurrencies, you should expect big ups and downs and big fluctuations. And if you're not prepared for that, don't go into cryptocurrency. But the idea that cryptocurrency is going to go away or that the government is going to be able to stop cryptocurrency from being something investors want, I think is unrealistic at this point.
So it's very interesting, right? So you have a swamp creature saying like the idea that the government isn't going to make cryptocurrencies going to go away, very strange, but it's all not good news. I'll get to that in a second. But before we get to the reality of the situation, there is some good news out of the Netherlands. We reported this a long time ago about how the Dutch Central Bank was essentially making it so that you would have to verify that you were the owner of that said address, right? Whether you either had to take a picture of it or you had to sign from that address to prove that it's yours. Well, it looks like a court ruling kind of shut that down, right? So now you don't have to verify an address. I think that's a step in the right direction. I think that's a major victory, Phil. Even though we still have to give our IDs and stuff, but I think it's absolutely ridiculous that now even after you have to, show your ID, show your address, you had to somehow show that you own that Bitcoin address, which is absolutely stupid because you could just transfer it to another address after that. I don't know. I think it's a small victory. It gets my morale a little bit higher in this war to come, which has started, and I'll get to that in a second. Phil, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely a small victory. I think we're still going to have more battles like that on the way. More countries will try. Where this country failed, another one will try to find a different angle. Going back, though, to that story about, David Rubenstein, I think it is. Maybe I got his first name wrong. Anyways, just going back to that story. Yeah, his overlords have given him the green light. So that's it. He's allowed to talk about he's allowed to talk about the corn.
I agree, dude.
Positive light, So because you're right, he's one of the swamp creatures. Just to go back. Sorry, I didn't mean to go back and forth.
No,
but
dude,
I wanted to say that one before I forgot it.
Do whatever you want, dude.
But yeah, for that whole it makes no sense to me, like you said, right? It makes no sense to me that they would have you register an address when you can easily just move it to another address and they wouldn't know it. But of course, if there was a tracking agency, technically they can go and take a look right on the blockchain and they can see that it was moved to another address, but then you could move it to a coin join and then it'll most likely get lost. Okay, so there's that aspect of it, right? You know, like you could do that. The other thing is this, right? It's like, imagine you had to go and register every single dollar that you owned, right? Or that you held, right? Every single dollar has to be registered to like a specific wallet that you have. Like, how would you even do that? Like, that's not even practical if we look at regular money. So all of this is stupid, right? Like, they're going to try all these stupid things and they're going to try to see what sticks, right? It's, you know, like in tech support, like we talk about this, you know, it's like you try you throw everything, but the kitchen sink at it. And then just see what sticks, so it's that type of thing, right? They're just going to throw everything they can and, oh, okay, that worked. So that means we can use this.
Yep. It's about getting that power back that they're slowly losing. And speaking of the war that we've been talking about this metaphorical war about this inevitable clash between freedom and tyranny. And of course, when I say freedom, I mean Bitcoin. When I say tyranny, I mean central bank digital currencies. It looks like that war has begun. It looks like the opening salvo was fired, Phil. Check this out. Treasury calls for crypto transfers over 10,000 to be reported to the IRS. Check out the date, ladies and gentlemen, May 20, 2021. I want you to pay attention to the date. To quote the article, as with cash transactions, businesses that receive crypto assets with a fair market value of more than 10,000 would be reported on. The Treasury said that comprehensive reporting is necessary to minimize the incentives and opportunity to shift income out of the new information reporting regime. I have no idea what that means. It noted that cryptocurrency is a small share of current business transactions. So if it's a small share of business transactions, why are they passing this? Okay, fine. To be fair, they already have this law. For example, if you're withdrawing $10,000 out of a bank account in cash, the bank has to report that you did that, right? So again, you're starting to see the gatekeepers are trying to apply the same rules on top of the Bitcoin network to maintain control. Now, Phil and I are not against taxes, right? We pay our taxes. We're not against that, right? What we are against, right, is overreach from the government, right? And what they're trying to do, we've been seeing this, it's multifaceted, right? We've been seeing that, they're going after companies like we showed you the example of BitGo, right? That, that apparently some of their clients were from Russia. Some of their clients were from countries that the United States had sanctions on, right? So, they're trying to obviously keep control of the old system. But what they don't realize is that essentially what this is going to force people to do is it's going to force people to stay in Bitcoin. That's what's going to happen, right? Max Kaiser said it perfectly. The U.S. Treasury wants to die on this hill. It was inevitable. Bring it. And he's absolutely right. It's not like we don't like paying taxes. Of course we pay taxes. The point is that the more tyrannical the laws become, right? The more monitoring and the more regulations are imposed, right? Between the transition between fiat and Bitcoin and fiat, what you're going to do, Phil, is you're just going to stay in Bitcoin. When Bitcoiners see that, right, your reaction is like, okay, I'm just gonna keep this, because you just don't want to deal with that. You don't want to deal with that BS because you already know what the Financial Action Task Force wants to do. Not only, this is just for businesses, right? So if you're a crypto exchange and you have over a $10,000 withdrawal in Bitcoin, you have to report it, right? What the Financial Action Task Force wants to do is that any transaction over $350 needs to be reported to the men in suits, So it's like, man, it's crazy. The gatekeepers are trying to keep control of the money because that's how they fund all of their shenanigans, right? That's how they fund war. That's how they fund all these government policies and that have absolutely they don't pay the consequences of those ideas, man. It's the people, right? So it's just crazy to see this happening in real time. Phil, what are your thoughts?
You know, it's interesting that we're the ones that have to produce value in order to get paid. It's interesting that governments don't have to provide any value to their constituents to get paid, right? Whether they do a good job or a bad job, I mean, what do? We simply elect new people. They never get dinged. Their poor behavior never gets in check. And yet they are allowed to impose, these types of rules on us for us to follow. But yet the government as an entity has no one to check its privilege. And it's just, like you said at the beginning, I don't have a problem paying taxes. I absolutely, to pay taxes and to get value for society is a good thing. Nobody has a problem with paying for services that people will use and not be abused. What we have a problem with is a giant bureaucratic leech that sits there and destroys all the money, creates no value, and produces excuse after excuse for incompetence. That's what we have for a government. So, yeah, if we had a better machine, we wouldn't mind paying the taxes.
Absolutely.
But yes, I will gladly just sit in Bitcoin for many, many years. I couldn't care less.
Yeah, and you defund them. You defund them in the process. You take your working capital, your literally your human energy that you get paid from work, and you dump that fiat. You put it immediately into Bitcoin, and you defund the system. Remember, guys, Bitcoin was designed to kill central banks. In the Genesis block, it literally says, Chancellor, on the second bailout for banks, I'm going to pop it up, the actual quote, but something along those lines. It was literally designed to kill central banks. And that's what it's doing, right? But anyways, Phil, I said it was the opening salvo, right, of the fight between freedom and tyranny. Check this out, right? Check this out, guys, okay? May 20th, 2021, the Fed just announced the Fed coin, May 20th, 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at war. This is an information war. This is a war between freedom and slavery, because that's what central bank digital currencies will essentially take you to, right? To quote the press release, technological advances are driving rapid change in the global payments landscape. Let me translate that first line. Bitcoin is making us have to do things because all of a sudden we have competition. That's what the first line really means, okay?
Yep, Bitcoin's irrelevant.
Exactly. The Federal Reserve is studying these developments, Bitcoin, and exploring ways that it might remain relevant. It might refine its role as a core payment service provider as the issuing authority for U.S. currency. To continue the article or the press release, as the central bank of the United States, the Federal Reserve is charged with promoting monetary and financial stability and the safety and efficiency of the payment system. Okay, so let's check out how they're doing.
So now they're what are they? They're transaction janitors? Man. Is that what they've decided to become?
Man, let's check out the
we're gonna sweep the channels.
Let's check out the stability, right? Oh, look at stability.
It's like a hockey stick.
Let's check out more stability. The Federal Reserve eliminates reserve requirements.
Who needs them? The money's fake anyways.
That means that before we had a fractionally reserve system, meaning that if you put your money in a bank, by law, they had to keep around 15% of that money. So if you put $1, they had to keep 15 cents. Now, you put $1, they don't even have to keep, they have to keep $0 on their balance sheet.
But it's all fake. Who cares?
But remember,
they'll be keeping zero.
Remember, guys, they're promoting monetary financial stability. Right? Remember, guys, this is what they're doing. Federal Reserve eliminates reserve requirements, and this is right before. Look, check out the date, December 2020. Let's check out the date. Wow. It can't be, maybe it's just a coincidence, Phil, right? And look, we're not the only ones to say, that this is a battle between tyranny and freedom. We're not being hyperbolic. That is the reality. We had Alex Gladstein on the other day to talk about this topic. And look, he tweeted and he commented about, the Fed coin, right? Mm-hmm. Central bank digital currencies will be mechanisms of surveillance and control. of course, in tyrannies, but also in democracies, right? So we're heading towards a cashless society. We have pulled up many articles from the World Economic Forum saying how cash is bad and that, cash should not be a thing. That's what we're heading for, right? They don't want cash. Governments want complete control and say over your life. And that is exactly what central bank digital currencies will bring to your life. It will be convenient. It will be easy. I'm sure they'll helicopter money straight into your little phone app, and you're going to feel good, right? Or, you have the narrow path, right? You have the path of freedom, right? Which is Bitcoin, right? So this is the opening salvo. It is not a coincidence that the Biden administration announced, harsher measures on taxing Bitcoin. And it is not a coincidence that the Fed coin was announced the same day. Now, what these people don't realize, okay, is that we want freedom, okay? And FedCoin will never give you freedom. That is not your money. That's the government's money. That's the government's app. They can freeze it at any time for whatever reason, okay? Mm-hmm. So with Bitcoin, it's total freedom. They can't freeze it, right? So this is the battle lines are getting more and more defined. I've been saying this since December, right? And we're heading into a future, right, where you're going to have to pick between Bitcoin and central bank digital currencies, and there will be no in between. That is the world we're heading in. The gatekeepers are not going to want to lose control. That bureaucratic mess that is Washington, D.C., the only reason that it survives is because they're right next to a money printer that funds all of their BS, okay? And Bitcoin destroys that, okay? So they're grasping at straws right now, and they're going to try to convince people with convenience and helicopter money, baby. That's what they're going to try to do, right? So as Bitcoiners, as Bitcoin content creators, as plebs, you have to inform as many people as possible to self-custody and to opt the fuck out, defund it one fiat dollar at a time. Phil?
Yeah, man. I'm really glad, though, that they're being very creative. They're being very creative, trying to stay relevant, and I have to applaud that. I wonder how exactly they're going to define their role in a system where they're not needed. So this is going to be very interesting. So the thing is that they have to convince us that we need them, and if they can do that, then they win. They've convinced us in the past for many years, but now finally, because of Bitcoin, we have something to, we essentially have something to compare what they're offering against. And this is a big, that's a big difference, right? Like before, all we had was gold, and everybody knows you can have a tungsten that's covered, you can have the situation where gold never actually moves, never actually gets delivered. Let's be honest, it's not easy. Like you can't really use it to transact, whereas Bitcoin is very simple and you can do it as with an app on your phone. So, we never really had the proper tools, right, to say goodbye. And now we do. Now we have the proper tool to say goodbye, and they know it, and they are scared. So the fight is definitely on.
Yes, and this is the opening shot, and expect coordinated climate FUD and a push to a proof of stake system, because that is what they want. They want that control. With the proof of stake system, they will be able to control it. With the proof of work system, they will not be able to. So expect coordinated attacks on Bitcoin, on its energy usage, on its whatever. And we are the vanguard. We have to fight back. This is a battle for freedom. It's awesome. We're privileged to live during these times. But man, they're not going to give it up. They're not going to, a rattlesnake doesn't commit suicide, right? But anyways, Phil, there was a software release today. Why don't you tell everybody about it?
Software releases. All right, we've got Sparrow Wallet version 1.4.1 that was released, and that's down below in the show notes.
Awesome. Thank you, Phil. All right, guys, that was our show. If you enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Smash that like button. And of course, comment. engage. It helps with the YouTube mysterious algorithm. It's weird. But anyways, guys, you know the drill. If you want to continue hearing the news from the Bitcoin perspective and the catastrophic fiat and shitcoin fails, definitely consider subscribing, and we will see you tomorrow for another episode of Simply Bitcoin.